All right, we're with Ashley Kohls, Executive Director of the Minnesota State Cattlemen's Association at the Minnesota State Cattlemen's Association Annual Convention here in Bloomington at the Doubletree. How's it going, Ashley?
You know, so far, I mean, you can see in the background, we have our trade show set up and open and running. We've gone through our Cow-Calf Council meeting this morning. We had our quarterly meeting this morning, and people are enjoying some visiting here in the trade show. We're going to kick off our opening session here in about 10 minutes. And we're going to have a person give us an update on the National Beef Quality Audit. And from there, we're going to go into our Cattlemen's College Education Series for the afternoon and wrap it up with our banquet tonight. So it's busy. People are running around having a good time.
So a lot of things go on here at the Cattlemen's meetings. It's not just the trade show. I mean, you guys go through and talk about policy and all that kind of stuff for the coming year, correct?
That's right. So last night, actually, we had our resolutions policy or committee meeting, and that's the second to last step for our grassroots policy development. So people are submitting resolutions from our grassroots local cattlemen's associations. We go through them, we kind of vet them, correct any inconsistencies or combine any that are similar, and from there we'll bring it to our annual meeting on Saturday morning for final approval and adoption. So it's a long, tedious process. That process takes about 4.5 hours. There's about 25 people who are involved in that. So we're kind of excited to get that out of the way right away so we can enjoy the rest of the convention.
Now, it might be a tedious process, but it is an important one.
You know, it is actually. You know, we all enter that room really excited about the process because it's really neat to get feedback from our grassroots organizations with their specific policies that address their region, and some address the entire state. And then from there, we also take some of the newly adopted policy and bring it to our national meeting in January to try to get some Minnesota-specific or regional-specific policy on the books there.
So I know a lot of the things we've been talking this year, and we talked with Chris just 2 weeks ago, ditch mowing and ELDs. Now, we got a little good news on the ELD front last week, but not quite what we're looking for, but it's a step.
Yeah, and that was actually something that we talked about for quite a bit of our time yesterday in our policy meeting. Do we want our policy to focus on the actual electronic logging device, or do we want our policy to focus on the hours of service? We're pretty sure that getting rid of the ELD is something that's not going to happen, the actual device, right? Because they have to log their hours. Whether they do that with paper or electronic logging device, it doesn't really matter. They have to log their hours. What we're looking for is an exemption or an expansion of the hours of service so these folks who are hauling livestock can actually get from point A to point B without having to stop, which is detrimental to the health and the well-being of the livestock.
And another thing that was brought up, I know, at the Redwood Area Cattlemen's Convention was the fact that this time is taken off for them even while they're sitting and waiting to get loaded, which you could be sitting 4 or 5 hours waiting to get loaded. That counts off your time, and you're really not doing any driving.
Right, and you know, we are citing a lot of research that's coming out of Kansas State that talked about the stress that happens to the cattle when they're unloaded, reloaded, and how long they need to be rested before they're reloaded. And you know, so we're using some of that scientific data to back our argument, saying that these cattle need to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. People who are hauling livestock are some of the safest haulers on the road because they go through extra training, like the BQA Master Transporter Program and PQA and things along those lines. So these people are really good at what they do. And they're extra careful or extra cautious because they do have living animals in their trailers. I think we're getting, you know, where we need to go. We're not there yet as far as the extension for the hours of service, but you know, focusing on hours of service versus whether or not to have an actual ELD in the truck is still something that we're talking about.
Another thing we've been talking about in the state is ditch mowing, and I know the cattlemen have been at the table with these discussions around the state with the Department of Transportation, getting the input. And now you've been around the state. What kind of things are you hearing from different areas?
Oh man, we are hearing a lot of messages, but they're pretty consistent from farmers. You know, we've been maintaining and managing these ditches, and everybody manages them for something different. Some are looking to manage it for feed. Some of them are looking to manage it because they think it looks nice to have their ditch mowed. And so we're hearing those comments from people, and they're also looking to manage like noxious weeds and all those types of things. So we do have comment sheets here, so when people are registering, they're filling out a comment sheet on the ditch mowing, and we're going to send a big old envelope of them to our friends at the DOT when this meeting wraps up. But it has been something that's been talked about quite a bit amongst folks here already.
Yeah, because the one thing I know we talked with Chris, you know, it's not that nobody cares about pollinators having habitat or that pheasants don't have a place to live. It's a matter of maintaining it. This has been a feedstock for decades for some of these farmers. They've had agreements with the DOT to be able to maintain these ditches. And it's not that farmers aren't looking at ways, can we manage pollinators in a different way? Because obviously pollinators, for those who grow crops, they're an essential thing. We don't want to get rid of their habitat either.
Yes. Yeah, and it adds to the frustration with a lot of the state-owned land already and managing that for pollinators. Because when you look at the scope of what the DOT is responsible for, their main charge is to get a person traveling by motor vehicle from point A to point B safely. And does establishing habitat for wildlife and pollinators in the ditch accomplish that goal? We don't necessarily think so. So we need to focus on currently owned state land or land that's in programs, managing that for the wildlife and managing that for the pollinators is where they need to focus.
All right, well, Ashley, I thank you very much. I know you're very busy here today, so we'll definitely let you get going, but I appreciate you giving us an update here. And, of course, I want everybody to get up here to the convention and the trade show here and talk with other cattlemen and get involved with the policy going on.
Sure, thank you.
All right, that's Ashley Kohls, Executive Director of the Minnesota State Cattlemen's Association here in Bloomington.